Emotional. Princess Leonor and Prince Christian's wedding day moments. Two hearts. The world waited with breathless anticipation. Cameras flashed. Bells echoed through Madrid. But no one could have imagined what truly unfolded behind the palace gates that day. The perfect royal wedding. Not quite. Because beneath the diamonds, the tiaras, and the centuries-old traditions, were moments so emotional, so human, they could bring even the coldest heart to tears. This is the story of Princess Leonor and Prince Christian's wedding day, as you've never seen it before. It began before sunrise. Madrid still slept under a pale morning mist, but inside the royal palace, the air buzzed with quiet excitement. Princess Leonor stood by her window, watching the first light spill across the courtyard. For a moment, she wasn't a future queen. She was simply a young woman, about to marry the man she loved. Her mother, Queen Letizia, entered silently, carrying the veil that once graced her own wedding day. No words were needed. Their eyes met, a mother's pride, a daughter's trembling joy. And then, a whisper. It's time. Across the city, Prince Christian adjusted his cufflinks, his hands slightly shaking. Even for a royal, the weight of the moment was crushing. Crown Prince Frederick placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Remember," he said softly, "you're not marrying a crown. You're marrying her." Christian nodded, exhaling deeply. Outside, the Danish guards stood at attention, the red and white of their uniforms catching the dawn light. As the bells of Almedina Cathedral began to toll, the streets of Madrid erupted in cheers. Thousands lined the path, waving Spanish and Danish flags, united by love and history. Inside the cathedral, a hush fell. The music began, a blend of Spanish grace and Danish solemnity. And then, she appeared. Princess Leonor, radiant, her gown shimmering like sunlight on water. Every step she took was steady, yet full of emotion. Her father, King Felipe, walked beside her, his face composed yet his eyes glistening. At the altar, Christian turned. The world seemed to fade. Cameras stopped mattering. Protocol vanished. For that instant, it was only them. Their eyes met, and he mouthed, "You're beautiful." A soft smile crossed her lips. She reached him, and as the choir soared, something remarkable happened. Leonor's hands trembled, and Christian reached out to steady them, his thumb brushing hers. It was a small gesture, unnoticed by most, but it spoke volumes. The vows began. Leonor's voice, though regal, carried the softness of love. "I promise to walk beside you, not before you, not behind you, but with you, in every storm, in every sunrise." Christian's reply came with quiet intensity. "I promise to guard your heart, not as a prince, but as a man who has found his home." When the priest asked if anyone objected, the silence that followed felt sacred. The entire cathedral seemed to breathe as one. And then came the moment that would be replayed for decades, the kiss. Long, tender, real. The crowd outside erupted in applause. Bells rang, cannons fired, and for a heartbeat, the world stood still. But not everything was perfect. In the front row, an unspoken tension lingered, whispers between the Spanish and Danish courtiers. Rumors of disagreements over protocol had circled for weeks. Yet, when the couple emerged from the cathedral, hand in hand, all political noise vanished. The warmth between them silenced everything else. Later, during the private reception, emotions overflowed. Queen Margrethe raised a toast, her voice thick with emotion. "Today, our nations are bound not by alliance, but by love." King Felipe smiled, lifting his glass. "To a future built on unity." And then, unexpectedly, Princess Sofia, Leonor's sister, stood up with tears in her eyes. "To my sister, who taught me that even in the shadow of a crown, love can shine brightest." The room erupted in applause. As the evening deepened, Leonor and Christian slipped away for a few quiet minutes on the palace balcony. Below them, fireworks painted the Madrid sky gold and crimson. "Do you think we can really do this?" Leonor whispered. Christian smiled. "Together, always." He kissed her forehead, and in that moment, the grandeur of royalty gave way to something far greater, the purity of two souls choosing each other. Their first dance began not with fanfare, but with silence. A single spotlight, a melody written just for them. They moved slowly, gracefully, like the world had melted away. Around them, the royal families watched, some with tears, some with smiles, all knowing they were witnessing history. As midnight approached, Leonor changed into a simpler gown, one she had designed herself. She wanted to end her wedding not as a princess, but as herself. Hand in hand, they walked through the gardens, laughter echoing under the moonlight. No cameras, no press. Just love. Hours later, when the palace finally grew quiet, Leonor sat at her dressing table, removing her jewelry. She caught her reflection, not the young girl Spain once knew, but a woman who had stepped into a new destiny. From the next room came the faint sound of Christian humming. She smiled softly. The day had been full of ceremony, but this, the peace after the storm, was what she would remember most. In the months that followed, people would call it the wedding of the century. They'd speak of the fashion, the music, the guests. But those who were truly there knew better. It wasn't the crowns or the cameras that made it unforgettable. It was the small, human moments, the tremor in Leonor's voice, the softness in Christian's touch, the tears that fell unnoticed. Because beyond the glitter, beyond the history books, this wasn't just a royal union. It was proof that even in a world ruled by duty, love still finds its way. And in that moment, as the sun rose over Madrid the next morning, 2 hearts, 2 nations, and 2 futures had become one. That was the day Princess Leonor and Prince Christian wrote their story, not in royal decrees, not in ancient vows, but in the language of love. And that is why, long after the crowns fade and the titles are forgotten, this day will be remembered forever, as the most emotional royal wedding the world has ever known.